effective herbal remedies. Our guest, David Christopher, was raised in the simple ways of natural health. His interest grew way beyond his university studies, and in 1974, he took his place by his father's side at the School of Natural Healing. Later, as a loving tribute to his father, he wrote a book entitled An Herbal Legacy of Courage. In 1979, he became a master herbalist and the director of the School of Natural Healing. Thanks to David's work, thousands safely apply his methods for natural healing. In fact, as an international educator, he has been instrumental in influencing natural healing principles taught in several European herbal colleges. Conventionally speaking, we're all told that natural remedies are no match for immune system issues. But we must keep in mind, those in Western medicine that promote this idea have rarely, if ever, looked into the topic themselves, making them, in my mind, unqualified to make such a statement. In reality, herbal remedies provide powerful yet safe support for the immune function, and in many cases, quickly help to resolve commonly known health problems like digestive issues, colds, flu, and even things like pneumonia. Today we'll talk about how you can naturally feel so good using herbal remedies on a regular basis without the fear of unwanted side effects. Please join me in welcoming David Christopher to our program. David, welcome.
Thank you.
David, what are your favorite herbs for protecting the immune system?
Well, I think hands down, I'd have to look at astragalus. It is, I think, the number one herb for protecting the immune system. And nice thing about astragalus is it's a tonic. And tonics are substances that will go either way. If you've got overfunctioning or if you've got underfunctioning, that's a tonic, and it will go whatever the body needs. They call them adaptogens also. Astragalus does a lot of things for the immune system. It actually increases the interferon, which is the chemical message that the immune system uses to communicate between the cells, and it increases that. They've done studies where they showed that immune cells that have been damaged from chemotherapy, they'll go ahead and gather them, and then they'll test them, and astragalus tends to bring them right back to activity. So weakened, damaged cells, it improves them. It tends to increase the lifespan of these immune cells. And these are all studies that have been done. One of the things that astragalus does is it stimulates the production of and activity of the macrophage, the part of the immune system that gobbles up impurities, so non-specific. And it tends to last for a long period of time. They've done the studies showing that you take astragalus and immediately affects your immune system within 6 hours. Then it'll last, as far as the studies are concerned, 72 hours. So it's fast working and it'll last long. I can't think of anything in the medical profession that has any benefits that astragalus has. Nothing they have. Astragalus is my favorite herb for the immune system. The other one that's the most popular one out there is also a favorite one of mine, and that would be echinacea. And echinacea works in a number of different ways. But one of the things about echinacea is that people recognize it as being effective. Even before they knew there was an immune system, they knew that it was effective. Echinacea is used for everything. And how can something be used for everything unless it basically affects the immune system? That's exactly what echinacea does. Echinacea is an American herb. It was discovered by us basically in the early 1800s. And Indians were using echinacea. One of the ways they used it was to just chew it, which is the very best way to use echinacea or any herb that would stimulate the immune system, because your receptor cells are in your mouth. And so when you chew on echinacea, you immediately get that stimulation of your immune system. If you swallow a capsule, you most likely have to wait for the Peyer's patches in the intestinal tract to get that immune effect. So yeah, orally is the best way to use any herb that's for the immune system. Echinacea was kind of an interesting one. There's this Dr. Myers who found out from the Indians or from a woman that was dealing with the Indians. At any rate, he found out about echinacea, found out how fantastic it was. And then he found out that it was good for, like, snake bites. And so he went around the country, selling his snake remedy, snake salesman, if you would. And basically what it was echinacea. And what we found out is that the echinacea blocks hyaluronidase. And snakes inject hyaluronidase into you so that their poison can spread through your system. It breaks down your hyaluronic acid, which is what holds the cells together. And so not only snakes do that, but we found now that bacteria also injects this hyaluronidase. And echinacea tends to block hyaluronidase and also promotes the production of hyaluronic acid. So it is actually one of the best things for wound healing. But it definitely stimulates the immune system, and that's why it worked. So they thought it was for everything, and they used it for everything, and it was one of the most popular herbs until the early 1900s. And then the medical profession took it, and they chemically extracted everything, and broke it down, and then used those substances and found out it had no effect whatsoever on anything. And so they said echinacea was bogus. And even though people were getting good results with echinacea, they stopped using it because doctors told them it wasn't any good. So here we have this American herb that fell out of favor with everybody, and people just stopped using it, and pretty soon hardly anyone was ever using echinacea. But the Germans, they tended to use echinacea, and so they started growing it over in Germany, and they were buying a lot of our echinacea. And so the only one that was ever using echinacea was foreign. It wasn't people in America. And it wasn't until we really discovered the immune system and how it works that we discovered exactly how echinacea works. And it works by stimulating the immune system, specifically the non-specific part, like the white blood cells that gobble up all the impurities, the macrophages, if you would. Echinacea is an interesting herb. We could just track it as far as its usage is concerned according to our knowledge. Once we found out that that's what it did, that it worked with the immune system, then people started using it again, and now it is one of the most popular herbs out there, one of the highest selling ones, echinacea. So, astragalus, echinacea, those are, I think, my favorite herbs for protecting. Now, other ones are really good. The mushrooms, almost any mushroom will be good for the immune system, but specifically reishi mushrooms are fantastic in strengthening and protecting the immune system. And so we put together a formula that contains astragalus, echinacea, reishi mushroom, and ginseng. Ginseng's another real good one for the immune system. So those are my favorites.
David, I know we can't do this in sort of a program like this for each and everybody's particular situation, but just generally speaking, what would be a good amount to take on a daily basis? Clarify also, is it safe to use every single day, or do we have to sometimes back off and then go back on for its effectiveness? But just kind of go down the line, astragalus, echinacea, the reishi, and the ginseng that you mentioned, just in terms of dosage, can we use it every day? And also, perhaps, are there any contraindications for people out there on blood pressure medication, cholesterol, this kind of stuff?
Okay. As far as these herbs we've talked about are concerned, they could be used on a daily basis, and that would be no problem whatsoever. There certainly is no toxicity in these. And as far as their effectiveness is concerned, in smaller amounts, which would be, if you're taking an extract, you just take, 5-10 drops a day, or maybe even 3 times a day, would be sufficient for something to do on a daily basis. The echinacea has another way that it works. It has these very large polysaccharides that when you take them in, the body doesn't recognize them as what they are, and the body is tricked into thinking that it's been poisoned. And so it'll, again, react by stimulating the macrophages and stimulating the non-specific part of the immune system to take care of this poison that's in there. Well, you can only do that so long, and the body goes, I'm not being poisoned. And so then it becomes less effective or not effective at all in that particular instance. There's other things that work with echinacea, but in that particular instance, it becomes less effective or not effective at all. And so you just go off of it, and then wait a week or so, and when you come back, there's no memory in that part of the immune system, and so you take it again, and the body goes, "Oh, I've been poisoned," and all of a sudden it starts making macrophages and stimulating their activity so that they'll become more aggressive. And so, see, that's really nothing saying that the echinacea shouldn't be taken every day because it's toxic or anything, only because of the way it works, and that's in larger amounts. So we have it in the formula to be taken on a daily basis. In small amounts, you get those other effects. You don't have to worry about the one effect of tricking the immune system into functioning. Ginseng has been used for thousands of years, and yes, it can be used on a daily basis also. Reishi mushroom definitely can be used every day. And no interference with drugs, no. Unless the drug relies on you not having an immune system. Then there may be a problem because it's strengthening the immune system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and I do appreciate the clarification because a lot of people out there, of course, at least here in the United States and throughout the Western world, they have that Western mindset of how much, are there any contraindications, because of conventional medicine. So I appreciate you going over all this. But now that moves us to another element of all this in using herbal remedies when we're traveling around or, in a different spot where, it's just not our home setting and it's not easy, to have these things around us to protect ourselves. What do you do?
I don't go anywhere without my echinacea. And if I start feeling a little punk or if I have heard that there's something going around, then I'll start dosing myself with large amounts of echinacea, and then that'll fire up my immune system, and I can be ready for it. Also, if you're not taking your echinacea with you and you haven't taken herbs, every place in the world sells garlic. I don't think I've been a place anywhere in the world where they don't have garlic available in grocery stores or down on the corner or something. And garlic and onions are something we would rely on for not only stimulating the immune system, but by themselves, those foods, those herbs, will destroy bacteria, viruses, parasites. So definitely, any place you go, get the garlic bread if you're, in Italy, or, get garlic in your meals, and buy garlic. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It has our viruses and bacteria. So any place that you can pick up a virus or a bacteria, you can get garlic. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds really good. And it's interesting what you're saying, though, too, about this whole idea of these capsules that are so popular out there, especially when we're not feeling well. This is a very important point you've already brought up, right, David? That the idea is that we mix, say, raw garlic, the cloves. It may not be easy to eat for people, but what a wonderful therapy to be able to get used to, as often as possible, taking in some of those garlic pieces into the mouth, chewing them up, and also onion pieces, raw onions, and chewing them up and mixing it with the saliva and taking 30 seconds or a minute for your systems to recognize the properties that are inside these foods. It's really a powerful thing to appreciate, no?
Yes, another thing that I remembered off the top of my head was honey is antibacterial. And so, boy, if you can take and crush up your garlic and put it in honey, then it makes it a little more palatable. And you don't wash it down so it's like in your system and doing the antibacterial job that it's supposed to do.
And again, it's fair to say, right, David, I want to make this really clear so that people aren't taking garlic and onion or putting in some honey and overheating it and cooking it a lot. Oh, this stuff doesn't work. What is David and Jonathan talking about? Can you just make it really clear? Is there a possibility that if they're just sort of throwing garlic in dishes that are cooked for a long time, or onions cooked, overcooked, or putting raw honey in hot tea and having it sit in something that's near boiling, does that change the effectiveness of the properties in those foods you just mentioned?
Well, the reason that honey is antibacterial and antimicrobial is the fact that it's in its entirety. When you add water to honey, then you lose a lot of that property. So cooking it and adding water to it, you lose the property. You still get the sweetness, but you don't get the antibacterial effect with the honey. As far as the garlic is concerned, garlic has like 28 different sulfur compounds, and all of them work. And they're really not destroyed by heat, except for the allicin, which is the strongest sulfur compound that's in garlic. That one shouldn't be cooked. In fact, that one's not even in garlic unless you crush garlic. So we advise that you put garlic through a garlic press, let it sit for 5-10 minutes, and then use it so that you get that full benefit of that particular sulfur compound.
And in terms of the onion, can you overcook that?
Onions can be cooked. They seem to retain their value, and we always suggest that people make a nice onion soup, and not with beef stock or chicken stock, but just onion. You make a nice onion soup, and when it's down to the temperature that you want to eat it, that it's not too hot, that's the time when you'd add the garlic to it, so that you're not cooking the garlic, and then you get the full benefit. For free, if you go on to herballegacy.com, there'll be a bar that says recipes. You click that, and then you can find the onion soup, and that's a fantastic onion soup recipe and doesn't use beef stock or anything like that.
So it's interesting, back in my macrobiotic days, which really started my journey into natural health and natural healing, one of the biggest things they talked about in the macrobiotic community was a miso soup, a fermented paste, soybean paste, and the miso paste was put into water, but they always put in pieces of onion and wakame, and it was a very healing soup. I really got hooked on it, quite delicious, easy to make, fast, simple, something that people could definitely look into is trying some miso soup. So that moves us, David, to the next part. Why don't we just talk a little bit more about how you feel diet plays a really important role in keeping our immune system strong? What do you tell people?
What I tell people is that, when they ask me about having a strong immune system, I tell them that the same nutrients you need for your body, you need for your immune system. I mean, they are cells of the body, and they do need the same nutrients. And what we've found is the very, very best foods that they can consume for the immune system would be foods high in vitamin C. Probably your best bet for getting vitamin C are bell peppers. There's nothing higher. I mean, they're double what oranges are and any other citrus. Bell peppers are your highest vitamin C food source that's in a grocery store. Now, of course, something like acerola cherries or something, but you don't find acerola cherries in your grocery store. You find bell peppers. And it's the red ones, the orange ones, the yellow ones that have the most value. The green ones have good value, but not as much as the colored ones. If I'm going to do vitamin C therapy, and that really helps anytime you have a cold or your immune system's down, vitamin C therapy works really well. And so 2 slices of bell peppers gives you the amount of vitamin C you need for the day. But as far as vitamin C therapy is concerned, you do the whole bell pepper, then you're getting vitamin C therapy. And you do a half a dozen bell peppers a day, then you're getting mega doses of vitamin C. And so that's the way we do mega dose therapy for different conditions. And of course, you want to go back to citrus, because citrus is high in vitamin C. But one of the things about citrus that I really like is that there's a lot of flavonoids, and those flavonoids are in the white part rather than in the sweet part. And so what we tend to tell people is take like a carrot peeler and peel the colored part off the citrus. Because a lot of times that colored part, people painted it to make it look the way it's supposed to. You go to an orange tree and they don't all look the same, those oranges. They're different shades of orange and partially green and stuff, But boy, in the store, they're all the same color because they painted them. You don't want that paint. So you take the carrot peeler or potato peeler and just peel off the colored part, and you get the big white mass. You cut that up and eat it. Or what I like to do is take that and put it in a blender with some fresh squeezed orange juice and blend that up, and wow, that is good vitamin therapy right there. So citrus. And then, of course, foods that strengthen your body and also are specifically strengthening for the immune system. I think one of the best ones out there is broccoli. All your green leafy vegetables and foods in the cabbage family, are good, but broccoli seems to be the king of foods, and that's the one that I think should be consumed. And it's high in vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. It's a very, very good food, very strengthening for the immune system. One of my favorite foods for keeping the immune system strong and healthy is ginger. You know, and ginger, kind of like cayenne, has that hot feel to it. Cayenne does it with capsaicin, but the ginger does it with gingerol. However, they still kind of get the same effect. So those foods are very, very good for the immune system, for keeping it strong and active and stimulated. Horseradish would be another one we'd want to do. Mustard. So those really hot ones. We call them pungent. I think pungents are good for strengthening and protecting the immune system. And I mentioned green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds. Those are the ones that are really good for the immune system. Kiwis, another great one. But I think one of the things that we really need to look at is just any food in its whole form. So what we're talking about are whole foods as nature intended in their fresh state. So fresh whole foods. Any fresh whole foods are going to be strengthening for your body, and they're going to be strengthening for your immune system.
So interesting, David, because back again in my macrobiotic training, it really taught me to appreciate food in such a different way than this calories in and calorie out, my exercise physiology training, all my university training for that matter, about nutrition